Y'all know America's sweetheart, the Ford Mustang. How about here in LA, south of the 10? Well, after today, maybe you will.
Yo, I haven't seen one of these since, really it's been a week, but I need to say, since I was a little boy.
Check it out.
Bruh, this being parked is giving me all kinds of feels. I bet this feels crazy to drive.
You know, there's nothing like driving an American muscle, especially in California. I feel like quintessential California driver when I'm driving down Soccer or driving down La Brea, and you can see the whole city. There's nothing really like it.
What about the '69 Mustang, like, made you go, oh shit, enough to buy it? Like,
It's a white California car. It's originally built in California. It's never left California. It's the closest to the GT 350 that I could get, and I would say it's like the poor man's option for the coupe, you know? Poor man's fastback, I guess.
poor man.
I feel like the Mustang is a California car, right? I feel like a California boy. The essence of muscle cars and American culture. It's an ironic thing to think about, but not too fast, but going fast. That being like a lifestyle in a way. Not totally like living fast, but you know, like living life on the edge a little bit. Everything's stripped down, it's simple, and I don't have to think about much. It's just like fun, it's pure joy. So I opted for the stock 302. I believe it was the first 302 option for the Mustang that was stock. So that was super awesome. I've always wanted a 67. My dream was to have a GT 350 or a GT 500. You know, this is like the dream car that I really wanted as a kid. I used to carry the Hot Wheel in my pocket, and you know, my dad had always told me to like save up, you know, dream big, you know, hopefully one day you can afford that car. So I found a white 69, and I was like, this is probably the closest that I can get to right now, and I love it.
Did you even have any muscle cars before this, or this was the car?
This was technically like my first car that I've purchased. I lived out of California for about 10 years.
Well, damn, like, I wish my first car could be a fucking 69. Like, what the hell?
So my grandfather worked on cars growing up, mostly Cadillacs. Just like being in the garage, watching him. I never really got to wrench around or anything, but you know, I would hold the flashlight for him and you know, do various odd jobs. Hold the compressor line to fill up the tires or something. So,
like, give me a 118th. Which one?
exactly, right, exactly. My formative years I spent around muscle cars, and I think that I've always been driven towards muscle cars. My grandma used to race. She used to drag race down Crenshaw back in the day.
Bro, it's so crazy, like, the history. I think that's something that needs to be explored for like African American, Black people in general.
Right.
Like the ties that we have to cars growing up. Similar to yours, it was like I had no choice but to love cars. My first toy was not a teddy bear, it was a toy car.
Same.
Like my mom, instead of, you know, telling me bedtime stories to go to sleep, would draw me cars. My dad, if I couldn't sleep, he had a RX-7. He would drive me around. It was modified. He was a street racer.
Right.
Yeah, his dad was a mechanic too, and also used to street race.
Right.
And smuggle. My grandma, like, were in car clubs. Like we had no fucking choice. Cars are so tied to our culture. It's
And I
great.
would say, you know, I was leaning for a while towards tuner cars and stuff like that, but I just started thinking about like growing up in a blue collar community. Anyone who grew up in a blue collar African American household, someone in their family knew their way around cars because they just had to. So I started thinking of that, and then the sentiment of the Mustang really like just drove me to drive American. Like that was my driving force, no pun intended.
That was like the dream car for me growing up, a tangible dream car, because my grandfather had a 66 with a 302 in it.
Okay.
And we worked on that car. I was like, oh yeah, when I'm 16, it's gonna be mine. It's gonna be mine. I hit 16 and he sold it for 16.
Wow.
I was like, whoop.
There goes that dream.
It's a hell of a platform, and it's just like, even if you don't do anything to it, it's such a classic. You just feel good being in like one of the original Mustangs. Like,
Absolutely. It's a head turner. People always compliment me on the car. It's great driving it. You know, sometimes it's a little bit too much attention, but it's great. Everyone always has a story. People, especially in the community, have always told me about, oh, I own one, or I owned one, I bought one in '69, or first joined the military, that was the first car that I purchased.
it's like, hey, great bro, I gotta go in here and shit real quick.
Right, right. But it's always cool to share those stories with like, especially like the older people in the community that they know their way around that same car, and you know, they had owned it 30 years prior to me.
That part.